Good evening, everyone. Good evening to all my golf friends, and welcome to my webinar series, Tuesday Traces. This is our 15th Tuesday Trace. Super happy to be here. As you know, the purpose of our webinar is to show how the V1 pressure mat is used by some of our most exceptional industry partners. Tonight is going to be so exciting because we are going to see some really different applications for the V1 pressure mat from a very special golf instructor and player. Welcome to all the folks that have registered and joined us via the Zoom webinar, and welcome to all the folks tuning in over on the V1 Sports Facebook Live channel. The recording of tonight's webinar will be available on the V1 Sports YouTube channel in a few days. All of the recordings from the other 14 Tuesday Traces are there. Really interesting content over there. Please go check it out. We absolutely love answering your questions. Feel free to put them in the chat screen, like I said, or in the Facebook comments section. And we've got team members from marketing that will send those over. They are really great at their jobs. If we don't get to your question, please reach out to us after, and we will definitely answer it after the fact. Okay, a little bit about V1 Sports. I know we've got a lot of new people tuning in because Paul is from the UK, so hopefully we've got some new friends from the other side of the pond. So a little bit about who we are and what we're doing. V1 Sports is a 25-year-old company. We are the leader in delivering video analysis and instruction solutions to golfers and golf instructors and players around the world. Our development team is leading the industry with software integrations, including BodiTrak, obviously, Foresight, and others on the way. Please reach out to sales at V1 Sports to hear about our turnkey golf academy for improvement solutions. I am Mandy Von See. I am a regional sales manager for V1 Sports. I am based in Charleston, South Carolina. After doing over 3 months of Tuesday Traces webinars, I'm excited to present some different ideas, and I hope that you'll consider adding this technology so that we can keep growing the golf industry together. I've got a ton of really cool folks lined up to host Tuesday Traces with me over the next few weeks, and tonight is absolutely no exception. Staying up in the very wee hours of the night, and Paul's definitely going to help me with my pronunciation. Welcome, Paul Woodcock, from Alda Root Golf Club in Warrington, which is northwest of England. Welcome, Paul. Did I say that right?
We'll get a translation. Alda Root Golf Club in Warrington.
Alda Root in Warrington?
That's it. You got it.
Okay. Alda Root in Warrington. And all my friends over here that are used to listening to me, they know I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I have this crazy Southern drawl. So I'm going to do the best I can with my UK pronunciations over there tonight. So, Paul, thank you for hosting with me. And forgive me for butchering the pronunciations. A little bit about Paul. He is a PGA qualified golf coach. He is TPI certified and a Golfsmith master club fitter. With over 10 years of experience, he is unrivaled knowledge in distance optimization and power development. That probably has a little bit to do with the fact that he is a long driver. He has played on long drive tournaments on the European and World Long Drive competitions. He has competed throughout America and Europe and has regularly seen tee shots in excess of 400 yards. So, Paul, I'm dying to know, and I always say this, your pro should play golf. I'm dying to know how you got started in golf, like years ago. How'd you get here?
Well, I guess that's one of those questions where, like, you have someone in the family who plays and you get into it. And I think I might have been maybe seven or 8 years old when I started playing. And then actually stopped and took a few years away. So came back when I was about 11 or 12 years old and played as a junior right through. So, I mean, I was really lucky in that the golf club that I played at as a junior was probably one of the busiest junior golf memberships in the area. In fact, probably the busiest golf membership in the area. So super competitive, and it really stuck with me. So yeah, it was great, really. And then turned pro when I was 18, and I've been doing it since. So,
and I mean, how did you, as a player, did you immediately start into long drive?
No, I actually only came to long drive in 2017. So in 2017, I bought my first long drive club off eBay, of all places. I thought I'd give it a go. Went to the driving range, couldn't hit it to save my life. And then actually took a few lessons myself, a couple of lessons just to get started with it. So yeah, the long drive came quite a lot later than playing regular golf, as it were.
That is fascinating. So you're playing golf and you're teaching, I'm assuming, and then you decided to pick up long driving.
For sure, yeah.
How does that happen? You just decide you want to go on the stage and whack a ball?
Right. So, long story short, so obviously it takes a lot of dedication to play tournament golf because there's so many aspects of the game. And for me, I was teaching so much that actually getting time to practice and develop my own game in all areas was actually almost impossible. The days weren't long enough. So, and I actually got injured in 2016, which laid me off golf for like 9 months. So as part of the rehab and the training and everything else that went along with it, long drive seemed like a sensible thing to do, and I've not really looked back from it. So, yeah.
Paul, that is absolutely not sensible to come off of an injury and then just decide that you want to be a long driver.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm just joking. And so when you did start deciding to be in long drive, were you still teaching?
Yeah, this was around the time, I guess, as well, that obviously we've had this huge boom lately in distances, everything, and the guys who hit it long on tour are making loads of cash, and it's becoming quite a trendy topic now. But I think it was in fact trending that way when we look back at 2015-16. The data was just really coming on the scene at that point. So it seemed like a good way to perhaps diversify the coaching into something that would have maybe, I guess it was a gamble at the end of the day, but it seems to be the way it's gone. So yeah, certainly no regrets on that.
Yeah, I do. That's why I'm poking you about this, is because there's so many golf instructors that either, start as a player and then they teach, but I find it fascinating that you're doing both at the same time. And I feel like by working on your own game, especially in long drive and all that power, it totally correlates to what we're doing here with the pressure mat, right? We're using a piece of technology to do absolutely what you're trying to do in tournament long drive golf. I mean, that is really cool that you're doing it at the same time. So now today, how much time do you spend training versus teaching?
Well, coming off the back of this year, obviously this year is one that we want to forget in a hurry, but we had like 3 months at the start of the year where golf courses here were completely closed. Unlike, I guess, in the US, where some places were still offering you could go and play, even if not, do much else. So there's not been a whole lot of training this year. And then we just come out of a second lockdown like last week.
Right.
So we're now getting back to something like normal. We've had some vaccines and things today. So hopefully then allows us to get back into training properly. So I started a couple of weeks ago in lockdown. I started doing some content for YouTube, and after I finished filming, I was hitting some balls and trying to get my act together.
Nice. Well, you certainly have a cool place to practice and teach. You guys, Paul was telling us before you all logged in that this facility you're looking at is 8 weeks old, brand new, at Alda Route in Warrington. Okay, got it. And I love how clean your studio looks. I love that you're, of course, hitting into a screen. You've got a pressure mat and some cameras, and I think you're using TrackMan. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, TrackMan 4.
Nice.
And my BodiTrak, which has been with me for 5 years now.
Awesome.
Well,
and really quick, before we talk about how much you're using the mat and how you're teaching with it, how many juniors are you teaching? How many kids?
Actually, probably not as many as I have done historically. This whole position for me is quite new, so I've moved like almost an hour from my previous place where I was teaching.
Right.
So I've lost quite a significant portion, almost starting again from scratch. So we'll get it back eventually, but at the minute, not as many as I would like.
I'm thinking if my kids are in your area and I tell them they're taking a golf lesson from a long driver, they're all over that for sure, right? Okay, so I know that the pressure mat was part of your repertoire from wanting more power. Can you tell us how'd you get a mat? Why'd you get a mat?
So yeah, so this goes back actually as I committed to the whole long drive thing. I was kind of toying with the idea before, and I got from one of the suppliers in the UK. I got one of the pressure mats. I had V1 Pro back then, and I was using that really just to gather some data to understand what, because at that time when I got it, I think in fact it was only the likes of Terry Hashimoto, Dr. Hashimoto was actually doing anything, to kind of put stuff out. Maybe Matt Blackburn as well. I think he was putting some stuff out there. So there was a whole process of just gathering data, really, just to kind of understand what causes what. And then after a while of using it, you start seeing all these, different trends, and you start associating them with these faults. And then sometimes you don't even have the mat down, and you can start seeing things that you've seen way back, and so it became a big part of what I was doing really with the teaching. And then mixing that in with the power side of it, you start seeing the trends of what the powerful hitters are actually producing. And when you've seen it so many times, it's not a coincidence. There's obviously some of it. So
you've been using the mat for a really long time. Do you feel like you can look at a trace and immediately know what you're dealing with?
I would say I'm pretty confident. Obviously, you do get the odd curveball, but for the most part, you start to see, obviously we're going to delve into the power side of it shortly, but there's a few things where you look at a trace and you can kind of tell whether that person's going to be efficient or not straight away. Even just looking at the blurry line, you can get a good idea of what you're dealing with. Yeah.
Nice. I like to sort of highlight that because, sometimes I put this mat in instructors' hands and they go, oh my God, I see all these different lines. What do they do? And I say, eventually in a few weeks, you're going to know very quickly what that means when you see that trace and the shape of it and what that means. Paul, how many different traces do you see per player based on different clubs? Do you see a lot of that? We've been talking about that in other traces, how drivers are much different than the other clubs. I would think in your world that's dramatically different. What do you think?
I would say, yeah, there is different traces depending upon. Well, I know we're going to touch on a little bit of the fitting aspects of it as well, so I don't want to give everything away. But you definitely get different traces between irons and woods, that's for sure. I've used it a little bit with putting. That's interesting because you do actually get some movements going on with the putting as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're looking at like half shots, knockdown shots, or where you're trying to flight the ball differently, you see different things there as well. So I guess there is an infinite number of traces for everyone who's using it, really.
That's really cool. We saw some putting stuff from Mike Sullivan last week at the very end, and I know we're going to talk about a little bit of club fitting. Everybody wants to talk about power, but isn't it fascinating that the mat can really be used for so many different parts of the game? That's really awesome. And it can go anywhere. So I'm sure the people are tired of me asking you questions and they want to see some of your traces. What do you want to start with? Do you want to see your traces? Do you want to show?
Well, I think what I've got some videos stored on my computer, which I can push on this other screen.
Okay.
And I recorded some videos myself. I've actually found a way I can do it live, so I can hit some shots for you this evening as well.
Great.
So do you want to take a look at a video of one of my students, which I was quite pleased with? We did some work last week, actually, and coming into this, I've saved it, especially because I think it's a massive improvement.
Yes, we absolutely want to see traces that you think are worth showing, but we also want to see your traces too.
Okay, well, I'm going to make it a little longer, so I'm just going to put this up on the other screen for you. Just bear with me 1 second.
Okay. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Folks, you guys are going to see Paul do a screen share. He's going to show you his V1 Pro software. He's driving tonight. Sometimes our pros send videos through to us because there might be connection issues and they might not be able to drive from their iPad or something that they're also connected with. Tonight, you'll see Paul driving his own videos and also talking to us. So bear with us while we get our screen shares set up and he gets his saved videos pulled up. I know he's created some new ones for us to check out this afternoon. Of course, it's midnight there, so he had a few hours this evening to work on it while we were all still working.
Okay, so
And thanks everyone for joining. We've got a whole crew, full house over here, so I really appreciate everyone tuning in again for the 15th trace. Here we go.
Okay, you got that?
Yes, sir, we got it. We see pressure.
All right, cool. Right, so this is going to be like a little bit of a before and after. Now, just to bear in mind, I'm not going to share his name. He's had, this is actually his second golf lesson he's had, starting from an almost complete beginner. So physically in good shape. He's not got any serious injuries or anything. And we were first lesson working on some bits like posture and, you know, grip and just hold that, you know, like the real simple stuff. Now, he went away from his first session. He's hit a bunch of balls at the driving range, which is great. And he's come back, and immediately from his first session to his second one, his striking had gone completely out the window. Couldn't strike it again. And his club speed had dropped down by nearly 12 miles an hour from where we started, with worse striking from his first session. So this is one of the things that I would say is probably one of the more common faults, I would say. And that is, if I can find my cursor. Okay, we're in. He's, as you're looking at this pressure trace here, the top of the screen is his toes, and the bottom is his heels, and then left and right is, as you see it, I think, is the box top right of the screen for you.
Yep, top right. And he's got so much weight in his toes. Holy mackerel.
Correct, yeah. So, but the thing we were trying to get to here was he was hardly rotating his body at all. Now, that's obviously a massive factor to consider when you're looking at creating power, is you want rotation, right? So one of the things I see all the time, and it's particularly common on people who've got limited flexibility, is that they tend to stack the weight up a lot on the toes to allow the knees to move around, to, you know, create a false, they call it a false turn.
Yep.
So this swing here is, it's not cycling through. This swing here, he gets through the top of his backswing. You see that big kind of reverse pivot, and how all of his weight's really, really over his toes, like left heel's coming disengaged from the floor. And from there, he's kind of got no potential energy built up in his, built up in his body when he's twisting. So coming through, he was like completely off balance to the point where he's almost using the club as like a counterbalance to help him, stay on his feet. Yeah. So, so one of the things we were working on following this was actually in his address position, getting him so his heels were a little bit more engaged to the floor. And I think I can probably find the one we had from after. You still see that?
You don't have we lost your screen share.
Okay, the screen share bar was just over the video, so let me just pull that back. So this was actually a recording we did. I put the pressure trace live on the projector where you would normally see your shots going. Turned the mat sideways so you could actually watch what was happening. Mm-hmm. And the drill we've gone with here is when he was making his backswing, I've actually got him to pitch his right ankle, as he's right-handed, pitch his right ankle. So his toes are like hovering off the floor. So when he's making his backswing now, you'll see as that cycles through how his whole right foot stays down, and you start to see a little bit of extra pressure building up under that right heel. And it keeps his left foot, whilst unloaded, it's still kind of in contact with the floor, ready. So when he starts to transition his weight through, his other foot's there, ready to control his whole movement. So we did a little bit of work with with the live feedback, which I think is probably like the thing I use the most with this. The live feedback is probably the main thing.
So Paul, I forgot the student's name. What did the student say when he sees his pressure and that he had literally 100% of his weight on his toes? I mean, I can't believe he wasn't falling forward, right? So what did he say? Did he have like light bulbs when he sees that?
Yeah, what the feedback, the reason I say this is the feedback he gave me was that basically instead of going through a whole back and two of how you how you explain to someone what they should be feeling, all he had to do was rock his weight back through his heels, which automatically sets his body position, it sets his spine angle, it gets his hips hinged properly. And he's looking at the screen thinking, okay, that's where it's supposed to be. And then this is actually what followed it now. So okay. we've got him set heels down, his posture, which you won't see from this angle, is tons better. And, first swing over a ball, his trace goes really linear. He's got way more control of his swing through we've got him a little bit wider in his feet. Mm-hmm. And then his swing speed jumps up massively because I think really is what you would say is subconsciously restricting how fast he can swing because his base was so unstable in the first place that he can't. Your body kind of kicks in to limit what you're capable of doing.
Right. He wasn't gonna let himself fall forward, right? But he was having to compensate for all that weight being in his toes.
Exactly right.
Fascinating. So this is his second golf lesson?
Second lesson, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty spectacular. That's pretty cool.
Having the visuals is good. Yeah, it makes it way easier. Instead of having this long drawn out conversation explaining what you want someone to feel, what you want it to look like on video, it kind of shortcuts the whole thing. So it makes your session way more productive.
Yeah, way more impactful and sticky. It's like that saying, I always say this too, feel and real is two different things, right?
Oh yeah.
Totally. One of our hashisms we always say is that the toes are your brakes and your heels are your accelerators, right? Your toes are what are going to stop you and break you. And the heels are in the socket to rotate and accelerate. So I'm sure that this student is thrilled that you told him to get off his toes. Is that the swing thought that you left him with, to lift your toes in your shoes? I love that.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I don't like putting things down, for people to, like lift the feet off the floor because I don't like to build a dependency on it. But having that as a real simple way of making, a bunch of other things happen without really thinking too much about them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I love that you try to do that without too much words or instruction. Okay, so I have a question from Jim Altamirano. It's a question from an experienced golfer. Are you ready for the question?
Go ahead.
Okay, at impact, how much force on the front foot when hitting an iron? And Jim's going to want you to tell him in percentages, like exactly how much on the toe and exactly how much on the heel.
I was kind of half expecting that question in one form or another. So I actually measured all mine before. And so I would say percentage pressure, less than on your trail foot, probably even for 30-40%, maybe less. I guess it depends how hard you hit it as well. That's the other thing, because when I tested it on mine, when I come into impact, I'm like 10% under my lead foot or less. Sometimes my foot's not even there on the trace. So on controlled iron shots, I'd like to see probably more pressure recording on the right foot. It means you're pushing effectively from the ground.
At impact.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I'd like to see, are we ready to see your traces?
Yeah, we can do that. So I'll put this through to live view. I'll move my chair, my camera. Let me just pull my mat into position. Should we do iron first and then a driver afterwards?
You tell me. I've never gotten to see just
Yeah,
whatever we want from a long driver. This is going to be fun. And I do have a question that I'm going to ask you when you're standing on that mat. I have a question about the other graphs, the lateral graph.
Okay.
So we'll ask, we've got Peter's asking to discuss the lateral forces, the level and direction throughout the swing, which is in a graph that will show up here in a second once Paul's connected. And I know that he's got all those graphs. Yeah, so there's the velocity and the lateral forces there at the bottom.
Okay.
Peter, that graph in the bottom right corner of our screen, that's what you're looking for. The pressure's on the top. And by the way, folks, we're looking at Paul's studio setup. So Paul's able to see all the graphs at one time. If you're using the V1 Pro Mobile, you have to tap the graphs to get them to change. The reason for that is just there's more real estate on the studio setup, obviously. All right, long drive.
Can you see the video okay there? Yeah.
Yes, we can.
All right, I'm just going to hit record on this one. And then we can cut it and take a look. So this is going to be just a comfy iron shot. And I'm going to try and keep myself in reasonably good balance. Just find it. Go.
You guys saw Paul freeze right before he swung the club. He was letting the center of pressure dot calibrate. He's letting that dot just calibrate into the center crosshairs right before he swings. So that's why you saw him pick his club up and pause for a second.
I'm going to just apologize in advance. All my swing positions calibrate slightly wrong because I think the swing speed actually means it's all over too quickly. So where you normally get your P1, your P2 and everything else, P4 actually happens like on the way back, but I'm not going to adjust that for today. Okay. Right, can you see the trace?
Yes, we see it.
All right, so I would look at this. For like a controlled iron shot, and address position for me. I'm kind of a little bit left side heavy. I actually use my left side to push my way off to my right side, and I think this is a characteristic that's kind of come or snuck in a bit from the long drive, where you're trying to make loads of build loads of momentum as you start drawing the club away. One thing I do try and focus on quite a lot is this whole idea of weight in the right heel, and I do like to keep my feet attached to the floor, particularly with irons. Not possible with a driver, when you start to increase the speed and increase the output. And I'm really conscious of the whole weight going through the toes as well, because that's something I've struggled with a lot in the past. So getting to the top of the backswing, I have quite a short backswing when I'm playing golf, which does take away a little bit of the speed, but does help me manage everything as well. And then I'll find that I'm trying to change direction on my on the movement of my weight from trail side to lead side before the club actually changes direction. So you get the kind of the body is moving towards the target before the club's actually finished. And then you start to see that left heel in the transition dig in, and that is what rotates me round. My foot always slips. My lead foot always slips round. So I'm just trying to do my best to anchor my left heel to the ground through the swing.
But you don't care about that after the ball's left the club, right?
No, but one of my areas of obsession, I think, is sometimes my foot jumps out of the shot way too early. So actually the club is probably only at that, what you call 8 o'clock position, just coming into the ball, and my foot's completely vanished. It's almost like I'm hitting it completely on one foot. So I do try and keep my left foot down for longer, because I have this perception it helps me control the club a little bit more through the ball.
Okay, cool. And then can you talk a little bit about that lateral, do you use that other velocity chart?
The shift velocity. So the lateral element, for me, the peak numbers actually sometimes read really high, because I push so hard that the weight creates that Z trace that you see quite often, with your more powerful hitters. So I don't tend to look at that too much. What I do look at more is the heel and toe variance, because that sort of gives you a better idea of how in control people are of the movement. So that's probably where I would use most of the, that's what I would use that graph for in most cases.
Okay, got it.
So cool. Should we take a little look at regular playing driver now? This is one step. All right, let's go.
So we get to see iron, and then a regular playing driver, and then a long driver, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So
I've actually got two long drivers to show you with 2 different shafts in.
Cool. Peter, when Paul is referring to the weight in his heels and toes, he's referring to in the graph on the top, and it's a little bit hard to see during the webinar, but when he stands on the mat, in the gray boxes on that graph, they're showing the percentage weight. So in the top section of the graph, it's showing the weight that's in his heels, versus the bottom section is going to show the weight in his, the bottom section shows the weight in his heel, sorry. So right now, if I look closely, I'm seeing 79, you'll see it's fluctuating because he's moving. But it's the weight versus in his heels versus his toes.
All right, so that plane driver there is me trying to emulate what I was doing with the 7-9. So you'll probably see on this one, everything will be kind of similar, except that left foot, the lead foot, should disappear a little bit through impact, and then you'll sort of see it come crashing back down into the ground after the ball's gone. So let's find that impact position. Can we see that one?
Yep, we can see it.
So driver, where with an iron, I would try and start a little bit more left side. With the driver, again, the long drive kind of dictates a lot what happens with my whole golf swing. With the long drive, the right shoulder tends to go really down to promote the upward angle of attack. So sometimes I do find myself with an excessive angle of attack hitting up through even the playing driver, which is not effective for actually playing and taking on the golf course. But weight-wise, kind of even from the get-go. Same pattern of movement where in the backswing, I'm really loading up the right heel, but because I'm putting a little bit more output into the driver versus like a 7-iron, the weight shift actually starts sooner. So where with an iron, I would kind of get to the top, and can you see my little video as well on there?
Yes.
Yeah, so when you get to the top of the backswing with an iron, because I'm not trying to put so much output through the shot, the weight doesn't change direction as quickly with the driver, because you are trying to, leverage a longer club, and the weight being further away, the club, so the body actually starts to transition left or to target before the club gets to the top. So here, when I get to, well, it's marked down as like P3 here, you're looking at the body's already starting to change direction, and I'm already starting to load up the left foot. So now the club's actually just coming to a stop. And you can see that there's like 75% weight left side, a little more on the toes, but for the most part, my primary thought is still trying to get that left heel.
Paul, stay right there. Can you get your magnifier? See it you see the magnifier? No, go down, go down, go down, go down, go down. There it is. Hover over that 76 and 24. Just click on it. Is it not going to show it? Okay, thank you. It's a little hard to see that, and I just wanted everyone to see that 76. Okay. Yeah, 76%.
Let me just I
don't know if you can make it bigger after it's already been. There we go. Okay.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you. So now we can see that you've got 6% of your weight moved over to your left foot, 65 in your toe, and now it's moved. So anyway, that's the percentage weight for that question, Peter Koval, that when we refer to the toe and heel weight difference. Thank you for blowing that up. Sorry for interrupting.
You're right. And then going down through impact, this is where you start to see the change here from that point there to the next frame along. You see the lead foot starts to disappear.
Yep.
So you're going to see a typical swing where I managed to hold on to that, where you see the weight the lead foot goes light from the mat, and then it reappears. Yep. So I'd be pretty pleased with that. As far as things that I'm conscious of working on in my own swing, I like to try and keep that left foot in the ground. But I guess what we're looking at there is that swing just measured was like 119 mile an hour club speed. So that's what I would say is playable on course and not trying to really wind it up. Now, the next one, which I'm going to just put up now, this is the long drive club. And this is actually a 5x stiff 3-degree driver. So it takes a lot more to even get the shaft to bend in the first place. So this is where the foot tends to start disappearing off the trace completely.
Cool. So we're going to see Paul, you guys, he is going to show us 2 swings with a long drive club, but we're going to see 2 different flexes, and Paul's going to use a very stiff club to start. While you get set, I'm going to say, Stephen Corso, thanks for joining us. Sherry Newsom, so happy to see you here. I see your face over there. We've emailed so many times this week. I just wanted to say hi and thank you for tuning in. I'm scrolling through a few names. Thanks, guys, for joining us. All right. We got to know how far it goes, too. We're not looking at launch monitor data, but we want to know. And they want to know how many degrees is the loft on that driver?
It's 3 degrees, this one.
3 degrees, Luis.
Okay.
Yep, 3. Okay, here we go. Are you filming?
Swing hard in case you hit one. That's a little bit thin. Typical of the first one.
So I saw something in your warm-up. Hi, Herb. Nice to see you. I'll ask that question in 2 seconds. You're moving back and forth before you swing, Paul. And we talk about that a lot, like the winding up of power. Do you ever do that as a drill? I noticed that you did it before you swung that club.
Yeah, and in fact, I have got my favorite training aid next to me, which I'm going to share with you after we've digested this video.
Cool. What's the length of that driver?
It's 47 inches, this one. It's not quite full length because I'm not the tallest guy. I'm only 5'10". I'm just going to re-record this one, that's okay, because it didn't send to me on the madness before I hit it, which was...
We're totally fine with saying it again.
Okay.
Everyone, watch him. Let's see if I'm noticing this winding up. I think it's interesting that he's doing that with this club. Let the COP calibrate.
Okay.
Okay.
And then it gets really messy.
It's a little delayed on the video, but boy, it sounds good. Whew! I wish my driver sounded like that.
Let's find the impact.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Can you see that one?
Yes, we can.
So setup-wise, it's a little different now. This is something that I've established by feel more than anything. Where with the shorter length driver, it doesn't take as much effort and energy to actually get the weight of the club moving.
Okay.
So you see the feet are kind of offset here a little bit, so the left foot's a little further forward, and that's kind of to help me keep the club on a good club path or on a good plane when I'm actually changing direction and trying to put the force in. So I find that my club path changes quite drastically from with a plain driver. It might be a couple or 3 degrees inside while out, whereas with the long drive driver, it being so much longer, actually tends to get 8 or 9 degrees inside it. So it tends to be a lot more from the inside. And then looking at the trigger move, you'll see a pretty big push from the left side. So actually the weight goes like almost 70% left, because that's that push I was talking about to get the weight actually move and get the momentum going into the backswing. Left foot almost completely disappears. 97% trail, and then obviously backswing's a little longer as well. And this is something that I feel I do miss, and I really should probably upgrade to the vector mat, with the vertical thrust measurement as well. But you start to see like the unweighting of the body, where like looking at, if you look at the belt buckle line, everything kind of drops down a good, I think it's probably about 4 to 6 inches. And that puts a load of flex in the knees to actually create the extra push force from the ground. So coming through impact, so you see the left foot sort of, it's completely disappeared.
Look at that, 100%. Wow. That's a Z trace, yeah? You'd call that a Z trace?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it starts off here, mid-foot on the right. I don't know if you can see the cursor there. Shifts left. There's the push. Left foot disappears. and then it reappears and
Yeah.
back through. So it looks really messy the first time you see one of those, I think.
Really what?
It looks quite messy the first time you see one like that, because you see all these beautiful traces that all the top pros put out with the nice
until you recognize it as a Z trace and you want that trace, right? I wish I could do that. Hey, what brand and model is that driver?
It's a Brute 2.1, the new Brute head. I've been hitting with Brute for like 2 years now, so this is their new driver that they just launched this last couple of months.
And then what ball?
The ball I was using then was actually just a Srixon Z-Star. Just one I had in the studio, yeah.
Cool. And how far did that ball go?
Let me check. There's a little heel, 331 carry, 354 total.
354 at midnight 30. Without warming up, I'm impressed. Okay, we want to see that last driver with the big flex. I want to see the difference in those two. Okay. But while you pull that up and get set, I'd like to do our giveaway. Everyone that's watching, please get your chat windows open. The giveaway tonight is kind of fun. We want everyone to guess Paul's longest drive. Please answer quickly. It is hard to find on the internet, but I was able to find it. Please put a guess, and everybody that guesses will be entered to win an iPad. So Kelly, our director of marketing, is going to capture all the answers that are coming in very quickly, and she'll tell me in about, I don't know, 10 minutes who our winner is. If you're tuning in via Facebook, just put an email in Kelly's inbox, marketing@v1sports.com. Just put your guess there, and she will capture those and put them in our whatever random program she has to get our winner pulled. So Kelly, there's lots of folks guessing. Lots of good guesses too. I know the answer. I don't know if I saw the answer yet. Everyone's giving you good guesses. Oh, I do see. Looks like we got a right answer. Anyway, all right, Kelly will tell us the winner. Let's see that last driver while everyone guesses. Are you look at that, 475.
Sorry, 475.
Someone guessed 475. Let's see that trace, Paul.
On your best friend.
All right, so this is the long drive club with a super flexy shaft. So this is the same type of club, just different flex than that last trace we saw. And I was fascinated earlier when Paul told us that he saw such different traces based on just the flex of the shaft. So I've asked him to show us this.
That feels so very strange, going from one to the other straight away like that. This what we're just going to touch on now is actually something that's been something I've kind of monitored over all my testing with all my different setups of drivers. Let me just find the impact. So speed-wise, that was actually only 1.5 miles per hour slower than the previous one. But perceived output and perceived effort was certainly less. Looking at the trace, you'll start to see that as like the the actual trace is very similar, but the timing of the trace is quite different because the easiest way to describe it is because you feel the flex in the shaft, the way that your body moves, especially when you hit a lot of different shots with the different clubs, in sequence, you start to find that your swing carries a little different timing. So into the impact position there, my foot's already touched down again, whereas on the previous trace in impact position, the foot was off the floor completely.
Yeah.
And I think when I hit a series of shots with that same club, that's when you start to see the differences in the timing, because you kind of need a bigger data set to review almost. Because I know we were talking about the training aids, and I'll just show you that now because this will all make a bit more sense, I think. Can I just cancel this screen share? Okay, we're back. Yeah. This tempo trainer.
Yep. Okay.
Obviously, it's got a lot more weight to it and super flexy. And one of the drills I like to work on a lot with, certainly with my students, is when you transition in your weight, using something like this gives you a lot more awareness and muscle memory compared to using just just a regular driver or an iron. Because the drill that you saw me doing when I was actually making swings with the long drive club is something I would do with this, just in the garden or in the studio. And what you get when you swing it back, if you try and change direction with your weight too quickly, the flex of the shaft actually pulls you off balance, combined with that heavy ball on the end.
Right.
So for me, I actually encourage a lot of my lessons to get one of these. I mean, they're like 40 quid or $50 or something like that. So this is probably best all-round training aid, I would say, for developing power and sequencing. And I usually use this on the mat as well. So I don't know if actually maybe we just pull the live trace up again. Let me get that back. We got that back. Are we back on the screen share?
Yes, we're there.
Okay.
I see you.
So I've got a really tiny screen behind the camera. I can't quite see what's going on. So the whole idea of this weight in the toes, if you go onto your toes completely and try and make swings with this weighted club, it's almost impossible to rotate and keep any balance. So I do this drill quite actively with my guys I'm looking at developing power with, where I'll get them to lift this right toe from the ground and make a real big backswing where they actually try and control the weight of this thing moving. So it gets you into a really nice loaded position. And if you see on the trace, let me just let it center up again. Pitch the right ankle back so the right toes disappear. And you see as the club swings back, the weight really loads up across.
Yep.
Whereas you get the toes, you get the backswing, and actually it feels like it's...
Yeah, I can see you like almost tilted off balance.
Yeah. So I think if there was one thing I would say with the guys who are looking at just purely developing power, something like this, combined with like your overspeed training, but this is probably one of my favorites, I would say. This is what I put the most work in with.
Cool. So really quickly, I want to announce our winner. Diane Dimmick, who has tuned in tonight, is our winner of an iPad. Diane, thank you so much for tuning in, and please send an email to me. We will coordinate getting your iPad to you. So thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate that. Hey, Paul, I have a question, 2 questions. Is that the orange whip?
It's the non-orange whip, orange whip.
What is that? What is your brand? You want to plug it?
Mine's a Longridge Swing Tempo trainer. I guess they're a UK brand or something. I don't know. These I got off Amazon.
Nice. And then also, I wanted to know how different are the traces or the weight shift specifically for long drivers versus regular beginner players?
Sorry, could you repeat that? I missed
So
is
the trace and the weight shift different for long drivers who are really working on big time power versus just, me, for example?
Yeah, I think that the traces for sure are different. What you can do is you can take the aspects of what the long drivers are using and implement them into a conventional golf swing. And of course, most golfers are not looking at trying to push for 135, 140 mile an hour club head speed with a driver. And average, I think, club head speed for gents amateur golf is like 94 miles an hour or something. So anyone who's in reasonable good fitness should be able to achieve that by actually just coordinating the timing nicely. You would definitely not try and emulate a long drive swing to hit it further on the golf course. And take that little video we saw of my 7-iron before, how short the swing is. And that's me kind of trying to limit everything, limit all the variables, because it's completely impossible to play golf. We get 6 balls in long drive. We used to get 8, and there's a reason for that. And they coined the phrase "swing hard in case you hit one." Definitely not advice you want to be taking on the golf course when you've got obstacles all over. Looking at playing your golf ball.
So 2 more questions. I know we're running right out of time. So really quickly, I wanted to clarify our contest with everyone. We wanted to pick a random winner for everyone that guessed Paul's long drive. We did not choose the correct answer. We chose a random winner from everyone that entered. So I want to clarify that. And I actually saw 2 people guessed correctly. Patrick, sorry, you were one of the 2 people that answered correctly. And I definitely would not share my longest drive on a public Tuesday Trace. But tell everyone what your longest drive was.
It was 423 yards measured in tournament.
423. So Paul's longest drive in competition is 423. Diane Dimmick was the random winner chosen from everyone that guessed. Thank you so much for participating. And my next question is is there any long drive competitions? Are they doing them? Is there anything we can watch out for you? Yeah.
At the minute, Europe is in and out of lockdown, so we're completely halted. So it's going to be a long winter of training, and hopefully we can get back going in April next year.
Yeah. So I know you're working very hard on some content right now because it's slow. Can you share with everyone where to find your content?
Yeah, so if you head over to YouTube, and it's at Northwest Indoor Golf, that's the facility here. We've got loads of stuff coming up. We've got actually a little series coming with my fitness coach. He's a biomechanics specialist, Josh, from Mechanical Advantage or Mech Advantage. And we're going to be doing some bits of stuff on screening and how to incorporate different types of training to help you develop power in your, golf course setting rather than just your out and out raw power of long drive. So yeah,
nice.
Get over and have a look at that. We've got that coming very soon.
That's awesome. We will definitely share and promote that to our V1 network when that's available. So please share it with us. And thank you very much for joining us. I know it is wee hours of the morning. I really appreciate you staying up late with us. And everyone, please continue to tune in to Tuesday Traces. The video from tonight will be posted on our YouTube channel. I've got Dr. Kiran Kanwar next week, and then the infamous Tom Patry that everybody in the world knows. I'm super excited for the next few traces, and I really appreciate you working with me tonight. Thank you so much, Paul Woodcock.
Bye.
Have a good night. Cheers, everyone.